Welcome to this video on scale drawings. Students will study scaled copies of pictures and plane figures, then apply what they have learned to scale drawings. This will provide geometric preparation for work on proportional relationships as well as work on dilations and similarity. Here are the essential vocabulary words that will be introduced throughout the unit: corresponding, scale, scale drawing, scale factor, and scaled copy. At the beginning of this unit, students begin looking at pictures to see if there are similarities and differences in the pictures in relation to the original copy. Students are encouraged to use their own words to describe the differences in copies of the pictures. Students will informally determine if either copy is a scaled copy of the original. Then students learn to use the term corresponding to refer to a pair of points, segments, or angles in two figures that are scaled copies. Students also begin to describe the numerical relationship between the corresponding length in two figures using a scale factor. They see that when two figures are scaled copies of one another, the same scale factor relates their corresponding lengths. In scaled copies, the corresponding parts are increased or decreased using the same scale factor. If an image is not increased or decreased on all dimensions, it is not a scaled copy of the original. Students continue to work with scale copies of simple geometric figures, this time on a grid. Students have a chance to see how the structure of the grid can be useful for scaling the lengths of non-vertical and non-horizontal segments. Students will start to draw scaled copies of given figures using the given scale factor. To create scaled copies, students need to attend to all parts of the original figure, or else the copy will not be scaled correctly. They will understand that the relationship between the side lengths of the figure and its scaled copy is multiplicative and not additive, meaning how many times bigger or how many times smaller. Creating a scale copy involves multiplying the lengths in the original figure by a scale factor. Students will start to deepen their understanding of scale factor in two ways. Students will understand and explain how the scale factor of 1, a scale factor less than 1, and a scale factor greater than 1 affect the size of scaled copies. Students will see that the scale factor that takes the original figure to its copy and the one that takes the copy to the original are reciprocals. This means that the scaling process is reversible. Students will understand how scaling lengths impact the area of a figure. Students will be introduced to how the area of a scaled copy relates to the area of the original shape. They will be building on their work from grade 6 using exponents to see that the area increases by squaring the scale factor by which the sides increased. This is a lesson that will be very helpful for students to have already had when they start to look at the area of circles in a later unit. Students will be building scale copies using pattern blocks as units of area and recording the information in a table. As students start looking at scale drawings, they will be using non-standard measuring tools like index cards or a sheet of paper to measure a drawing and to solve problems. Students will need to be as precise as possible when making their marks and estimating lengths. Here's an example of a student using patty paper to mark different lengths in this activity. Students will use scale and scale drawings to determine actual distances and solve problems involving constant speed. In grade 6, students have examined many contexts involving travel at constant speed. Students are given maps with scale, starting and ending points. They are either given the time the trip takes and are asked to estimate the speed, or they are given the speed and asked to estimate how long the trip takes. Students will have to make estimations about distances because the roads are not straight. Here is an example of a student using patty paper to estimate the distance in this particular activity. Students will be creating their own scale drawings. Students will create different scale drawings of different images like this flag of Colombia or the state of Utah, and notice how the scale impacts the drawing. Students will be finding the scale, given lengths on a drawing, and actual lengths. They will create scale drawing giving scales with units, for an example, 1 inch to 10 feet, and understand how different scales affect the size of the drawing. Students will explore different scale drawings of the same actual thing. In a similar activity, students will be given a map with a triangle outline with the actual base and height of the triangle given. Students will need to be able to find the area of the triangle. Then students will be given different scales to create a scale drawing. It will be important for students to use units in their measurements at this time. Sometimes scales come with units and sometimes they don't.